Because SaberSim leverages the correlation data we have from our simulations as we're building each individual lineup, you'll typically find that without setting a single rule, your lineups have the right kinds of stacks that you would expect for that sport, whether you're playing NFL, NHL, MLB, or a different sport entirely. However, we still give users the opportunity to set specific stack rules if there are types of different lineup constructions you want to make sure are showing up in your lineups. You can find these stacking rules in the Build Setting tab under the Rules tab here. You'll see for most sports, there are a couple options here, and the stacking options break down into the basic and advanced stacking options here. The basic stacking option is exactly as it sounds. It'll be a relatively basic menu here, making sure that you can have a certain amount of players from either the same game or the same team, or in the case of NHL, from the same line or power play line. We could go in here and set a very simple rule that says something like, we want at least 3 players from the same team for this particular football slate, making sure that we get a quarterback and 2 potential pass catchers for each individual lineup. We can also go in here and say things like, maybe there are certain teams that this does or does not apply to. I maybe don't really want to play Detroit Lions stacks for this particular slate, so I'll remove them entirely. And I can also edit the particular positions. Running backs are often pass catchers, especially in the modern NFL, but maybe in this case, I don't want running backs included in my stack, and I also don't want defenses included in my stack. So we'll remove those, and this kind of rule will give me a basic rule that makes sure that I have these particular player combinations in my lineups. The advanced stacking tabs is going to allow you a lot more control over which individual positions show up in that particular stack, which positions show up from the opposing team, and of course the eligible teams for the rule. Let's go ahead and I'll show you what this looks like here. If we click this Edit Positions button, you'll see a breakdown that allows you to control exactly which players show up for this particular stack. I could, for example, say that I want exactly 1 QB, and I want, let's say, for example, more than or equal to 2 wide receivers or tight ends for this particular stack. You can see here, however, though, there are mathematical operators for virtually any different combination of rules you would want here. We have the equal to, more than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to, and also a range. One way that I could set this rule instead, for example, might be to say I want a range of 2 to 3 wide receivers or tight ends for each QB stack that I've created. I can go in here again and edit the particular teams that this rule corresponds to, and also set the opposing team rules. In this particular case, maybe I want to make sure that I have at least 1 wide receiver from the opposing team running back this rule in every single case. Now, one thing to remember here is that when you set this stacking rule, these rules will apply to 100% of your lineups in your pool in Step 3. If you've built lineups with SaberSim before, you're familiar with the fact that you have the opportunity to adjust exposures and change what particular stacks you may have in your lineups in Step 3. But if we've set a rule here that makes sure that we are going to have a QB plus 2 or 3 wide receivers or tight ends from the same team, and always at least 1 run back from the opposing team, this rule will show up in 100% of our lineup. So in general, I would say only set these rules if you're 100% sure that this is what you want your lineups to look like, and to choose options that are more flexible when possible. If you can use ranges or greater than or equal to's, for example, instead of equal to's or more harsh rules, you'll probably find that you get more flexible lineups and better results here. That is just a very quick breakdown of SaberSim's stacking rules here. Again, because we're using correlation data directly from our simulations in your lineups, you don't have to set as many stacking rules as you may be used to on another tool. But this is a good way to make sure that your lineups, if you have a particular lineup construction you want, have those in your particular contests. As always, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out in the Run Pure Sports Discord or check out some of our other tutorials on the site. And until then, thanks and good luck.